And we'll start with James Cole from Sky Sports News. As always, can we use the chat facility to request a question after James has asked a few questions to Ed? Go ahead, James.
Hi, Ed. First of all, Dan Lawrence, one of the standout names in this squad. How big an opportunity is this for him in the top order, given no Rory Burns, no Ollie Pope?
Sure. Hi, James. Yeah, great opportunity for Dan Lawrence. Really talented cricketer, confident player. He's in good form, and he is absolutely delighted about being selected in the full squad and having an opportunity to move forward with his career. So yeah, great chance for him, and also for Johnny Bairstow as well, who comes back into the Test squad. What sort of qualities do you see in Lawrence? You should all try it. I think Dan Lawrence is one of those players who's an unusual player, but he's got that real quality about him. He's his own he has his own style. He has real confidence and presence at the crease. He's inventive. He's versatile because he's also a good short format player, and he really impressed on the England Lions tour about just under a year ago, which James Taylor was at all the way through, and I was there for the last game at the MCG, and it was great to see Dan do so well on that tour. No Ben Stokes. This is obviously what must be an incredibly difficult time for him. How is he, and what have your conversations been like? Sure. Look, obviously both James Taylor and Chris Silverwood, the other two selectors, were with Ben for the T20 leg of the South Africa tour. It's a very difficult time for him, and all our thoughts are with him and his family. It's also the case that all the multi-format players, so for example, players like Ben Stokes, Jofra Archer and Jos Buttler, are going to have a period of rest at some point during the Sri Lanka-India tours. So it made sense for Ben to take his rest for the Sri Lanka tour and to get ready for India. I know when you picked the South Africa squad, you said that player welfare was at the heart of selection moving forward. Has what happened in South Africa just highlighted that and just shown how tough it is going to be maintaining the bubble abroad, but also player welfare going forward abroad as well? It's very important, and it's something we take very seriously as an organisation. It's also the case that, I spoke to 20 players yesterday about selection for Sri Lanka, and we also mapped out an individualised programme for every player. So we obviously tell them with total clarity about the Sri Lanka situation, and also we're just able to guide them a little bit about what we think is coming up for them. Of course, we know in cricket things can change, but we identified some gaps where some people will have a bit of time off and some rest. But the overwhelming feeling, James, is just optimism and excitement about getting out there, playing cricket, the two real great challenges of winning in Sri Lanka, winning in India. Obviously, 2 years ago, England had a fantastic trip to Sri Lanka, the first time we'd ever won a clean sweep in tests in Asia, with that 3-0 victory for Joe Root's team. And also everyone knows how hard it is and how exciting a prospect it is to go and try and win in India as well. So I think if I was to take a general view of the conversations I had with the players, it was they want to get out there playing cricket, they want to show what they can do, and they want to take these opportunities in these two really exciting tours. It sounds then that like no one's been put off by what happened in South Africa. Everyone was happy to tour again in January. That's the general feeling of the conversations I had was one of optimism. I think people are looking forward, and as an organisation we're looking forward, and as a playing group they're looking forward, and there's a real sense that everyone understands how important these tests are for the England cricket team, how important they are for England cricket, and how important they are for the world game too. And finally, from me, if there is any doubt over the circumstances, the safety of players and the bubble, you stand by the decision to postpone? Sure. Everything we're doing now is looking forward, and we're looking forward to Sri Lanka to make sure that the tour is not only a smooth tour, but also a successful tour, on the field, off the field, and the same in India. So everyone's just looking forward, trying to do everything absolutely right, so the players can get out there and do what they want to do, which is to concentrate on winning games of cricket for England. So absolutely, and that's how everyone feels that I've spoken to across the organisation. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Jonathan Agnew next, please, and then we'll go John Norman from TalkSport.
Okay. Hello, Ed. Good to see you, and all your unsold books in the background. And happy Christmas, etc. Couple.
They've been remaindered, actually. They're not unsold. They gave up on those a long time ago.
What do you
I haven't missed this, by the way. Are you sledging me about writing? Thank you.
What do you make of the comments from South Africa today about England not coping with a third world country, or not really having the right attitude to tour a third world country, given that you are going to the subcontinent?
I haven't seen those comments. I wouldn't comment about South Africa. I wasn't there. What I will do is comment around squad selection and selection strategy, individual selections, groups, how we're approaching it as a group, and also how we're looking forward. So all I've been thinking about over these last few weeks is getting selection right for post-Christmas, and also making sure that our players, first of all, that the team has what we need in terms of players there, absolutely, to perform really well as a team. And secondly, that particularly those multi-format players get enough rest so that they're able to be at their best for England when we need them most. And really, that's been the focus of my work, Aggers.
Okay, then a cricket one from me. Adil Rashid.
Yes.
Where are we with him? Did you consider him for Sri Lanka? Was he available for Sri Lanka? Is he available for India?
Good question. Everyone knows Adil Rashid's fantastically talented cricketer. Obviously, we brought him back into Test cricket in 2018, and England had a very good sequence of results at that time. It is also the case that Adil has said in the media exactly what he said to me, which is that he has had a long-running shoulder injury. It's made really good strides. However, he does have concerns about that shoulder under the strain of 5-day cricket, and obviously he's got to weigh up his one-day and T20 form, which is outstanding. He is among the most irreplaceable players in a very, very strong white ball setup. And that's where he stands at the moment, that he tilts that way. We did have many conversations. I always enjoy speaking to Adil. He's a fantastic character and talent in England cricket. But he's been very honest, and he does have those concerns about his shoulder, and he's going to stay where he is for the time being.
So he's unavailable, in other words.
Well, he said that he would like to focus on white ball cricket for the time being. Nothing's ruled out for the future, but at the moment, that's where it sits.
Happy Christmas, Ed. Cheers.
Thanks, Aggers, and you.
Okay, we'll go with John at TalkSport, please.
Hey, Ed. Thanks for talking. Looking at the schedule for Sri Lanka and the one that was released for India yesterday, it does appear that England are about to go into essentially 6 back-to-back test matches. With the likes of Stokes missing Sri Lanka, is there a concern about players getting up to test speed when there doesn't appear to be a warm-up between the end of Sri Lanka and the start of India?
Sure. So very good question. So shall I just tell you a little bit how it's going to work? So the players who are in Sri Lanka are going to go straight from Sri Lanka onto India. So there'll be no returning home between those 2 legs of the tours. And the players who are going straight to India, so Jofra Archer, Ben Stokes, Rory Burns, they will fly around about the 22nd, 23rd of January. All these dates are a little bit provisional relating to individual players, and go straight to India, and they'll be given every opportunity to prep and get ready for the India tour. So while it requires some skill and ingenuity, but I've been speaking to Mo Bobat daily about individual player plans, and obviously in these circumstances, getting those kinds of things right so that players have the best possible chance of getting ready for a really important series is obviously vital. Yeah.
We've lived in a world for a couple of years where bowlers have had to get used to the idea of rotation. One of the elements that really springs out of the squad for Sri Lanka and knowing what England have in reserve is that we're now in a position where you've got options at the top of the order. We've had options in the middle for quite some time, wicketkeeper as well. Are all cricketers now in the current COVID scenario going to have to get used to the fact that, the captain aside, they may actually all have to get on board with some form of rotation?
Very good question. I think philosophically, you're basically right. I think that one of the things that James Taylor and I have tried to do and work really hard on, and also include Mo Bobat in that as well, who's performance director and previously ran the talent ID department, is we need an expanded group of players to be at our best across all three formats, if you like, all the time, peaking for our most important challenges. And over the last 2.5 years, we've made real strides at having good form in three formats simultaneously, all taken together. We have done. Obviously, there have been peaks and troughs, sport being what it is, and sometimes you wish you'd done better than you did, and other times things you're flying. But all taken together, the win-loss ratio has been good across all three formats. Now, I believe, and we believe as a selection group, that we need a sufficient number of players to have people coming in and out so that you've always got a strong 11 on the field. And that's absolutely the case, that it's been tested and radicalized in the COVID period. But actually, we believe we arrived pretty ready for it because we were already thinking along those lines. And you cannot expect to play the same 11 every time, and for those guys just then to get exhausted and jaded. There must be room for sensible rotation, both in and out of the squad. So we talked earlier about how Jofra Archer, Ben Stokes, Josh Butler, those types of guys will have blocks away from the tour this winter. And also, yes, within squads, because we know that if effectively you've got 6 back-to-back tests, it will be unlikely, not impossible, but unlikely that people can go straight through with an unchanged situation.
Thanks, Blake.
Okay, we'll go Tim Wigmore and then John Etheridge.
Hi, Ed. What's the situation with the keepers? You've obviously got 3 in your squad. Who do you expect to take the gloves in goal?
Sure, I don't think there'll be any change there, Tim. Obviously, the final decision of who keeps wicket or who walks out to bat at what number will always be made quite rightly by the captain on the field. But I would expect continuity there. I think I would also say that, Johnny Bairstow has a really great opportunity here to get back into the test mix as a batter. And that's a really exciting possibility for him. And I'd also mention that I think there will be opportunities for Ben Folkes at some point this winter. We've mentioned earlier that Josh Butler is likely to have a rest at some point, certain to have a rest at some point. So that then will create, open up opportunities elsewhere. So yes, it's something we're very fortunate in England cricket, as I've had said many times, to have such strong depth in that area. And we'll try and deploy those resources intelligently and to the best use of the team.
But from here, with Ben Folkes, looks like he's there as a backup keeper potentially. And with Johnny, he's actually more of a top order batting option.
I think at the moment, in the immediate term, that's a fair summary. I think, as I mentioned earlier on, I think, for example, let's take Ben Folkes. He spent the whole summer in the bubble. And I think there's a real understanding that he's a very good cricketer and merits opportunities, and I think there will be some opportunity for him coming up at some point soon.
Okay, John Etheridge, and then we'll go Chris Stokes, Will Macpherson.
Ed, morning. I was going to ask about Johnny Bairstow. So with Crawley, I guess, like as you move up to open and Hope missing, Stokes missing, there's clearly vacancies in the top 5 or 6. What's Johnny done in the last year to sort of merit a test match recall?
Sure. Well, first of all, let's look at Johnny in Asia. So Johnny's last test match in Sri Lanka, he got 100 at Colombo in that 3-0 victory. He didn't play in the first 2 tests, having missed out initially through injury. He has a very good record against spin. And also we saw, in different formats that what a talented player he is in recent weeks. So I think with Johnny that he's missed out on selection over the last year. He's obviously been very frustrated by that. But this felt like just the right moment with his pedigree as a player of spin in Asia, and with some gaps in the squad as well, with Ben Stokes and Rory Burns not there. Felt like the perfect moment to reintroduce Johnny to the group. Dan
Lawrence obviously will be testing similar spots, but he's playing in the Big Bash. He's played today, I think. So
yeah, he is. I spoke to Dan yesterday late at night in Australia. He was still up watching the first game of the Big Bash yesterday. And he's excited about getting out there today.
So he'll have to withdraw.
Sorry?
He'll have to withdraw from his contract, I guess, with the...
Yeah, sure. He'll fulfill his England His England commitments, yeah, and fly out with everyone else on the second night.
Just sorry, the reserves, were they able to travel, yeah?
Yeah, again, really good question. Thanks for raising it. So one of the things I should have mentioned at the very top is that alongside the huge sense of, excitement about getting out to Sri Lanka and then going on to India and those two fantastic challenges, there's also an awareness on our side that there isn't any Lions cricket at the moment. And there's a real development opportunity for those 7 reserves who are all sort of younger, some of the seamers are in their mid-20s, and then some young spinners as well, and James Bracey as a batsman. So that will also be a development opportunity for them, to experience the subcontinent conditions, to be around that first team in that, really exciting test series, and for them to grow as cricketers as well. And one of the things we believe is that, as we manage players moving forward, that I think for players on tour, it's important that they feel either close to selection or they have a really clear development plan, if possible. And in the case of those 7, that's definitely there. And James Taylor, myself, and Mo Bobat have talked a lot about it. It's just the right place for them to be. If you were a young spinner trying to force your way into the England Test team, far better to be with the England team, albeit as a reserve, than to be back at home in the UK. One thing I'd also add is that, obviously initially we were hoping to have a test camp in UAE. That couldn't happen in the end. But the players and the management, at Loughborough have done a brilliant job. There's been a tent up. There is a tent up now. Been able to catch up every day, find out how players have been playing. Popped up there as well for a few days last month. And I think it's been a terrific effort by Mo and by his team at Loughborough to lay on such good facilities in England. It couldn't have been any better given the constraints. And that's also the feedback we've got from the players who've been there every week.
Okay, Chris Stokes, and then we'll finish with Will Macpherson.
Hi, Ed.
Hi, Chris.
In this time of COVID, you found yourself having to pick expanded squads. I just wanted to know how much of that is down to the need for you guys to cover yourself in case of illness.
Well, I'm just trying to be a little bit precise in my answer to that. I mean, the size of the squad, Chris, is not expanded. I think we took 16 or 17 on the last trip to Sri Lanka, and it's 16 this time. So that's a very typical number for a test tour. I think the size of the traveling group, to make a distinction, sounds a little bit arbitrary between the squad and the group. Yes. Then there's the traveling reserves. I mean, the difficulties you can imagine is, and it's the same thing we faced actually in the summer, even though we were hosting, in some ways, the way you thought about selection was more like a tour. Because normally, of course, you'd have your, say, 13 players at a test match. And if someone breaks a finger, then you just call up the next in line player who gets in his car and drives from where he lives and joins the test team. Well, that wasn't possible because of the testing protocols. So you had to have all those extra players with you. So the main thing is that you need players present who can join across a range of disciplines, spin, seam, bat, keep, who can then join the squad immediately in the event most likely of injury, actually, for example, concussion, sub, or whatever. So you need to travel with enough players to cover every eventuality because you can't get people into the squad quickly.
Okay.
Okay, Will, to finish.
Hi, Ed. I just wondered whether you could give us a sense of the conversations that happen around a player deciding to not travel for family reasons, as Rory Burns has with the impending birth of his first child. Are you able to give any assurances? He's obviously the incumbent opener, and is it just a no-brainer now that a player, stays home if they want to, as Joe did in the summer?
Sure, a good question. I think that we're all very respectful of people's family lives and commitments, and also it's such an exciting time for a young father to be there for the birth of his first child. So I think everyone in the management supported Rory's position, and he has our full support. And of course, we wish him and his family every success in the new year. In terms of coming back, it was very straightforward. We just said, look, obviously Sri Lanka is not going to work because you're going to want to be, he expressed a desire to be there for the birth, and then there's no chance of getting in time for the second test to Sri Lanka. So we just said, get ready for India. I spoke to Rory 2 or 3 times. We've obviously discussed preparation and training in January, and that timeline I gave you earlier on about flying out to India 22nd, 23rd. So it was an example, actually, Will, of one of the things we're trying to do now, and this is relevant to COVID era cricket, is that usually, selectors like the idea of things being very discreet, and independently discussed. So selection, communication, announcement, and then each tour is taken separately. We're slightly changing that, and we're trying to work with the player and to give them a bit more visibility and to say, look, this is going to be this tour, and then this is what's coming up, and we want to work with you to give you a bit of visibility and a heads up about what your next few months are looking like. And we believe that is quite, I would say radical. We believe it's quite innovative. It obviously is based on a lot of trust and a lot of communication. And we're incredibly fortunate as a selection group, for example, that James Taylor was in South Africa, who's an exact contemporary of some of the people he's talking to, has those trusting relationships, and able to talk to them about what they've got coming up, what they can cope with, what the best scenario is for England to succeed, and for us to have a really strong 11 on the field at all times. And just on that point, another innovation we're bringing in is that we will be making changes to the India tour mid-tour. We won't be doing that at the last minute. I think the way to think about this winter is it's 3 blocks of 2 tests. Sri Lanka, India 1 and 2, India 3 and 4. There may be obviously changes beyond that too, but we think that's the only way to make sure we balance having the right number of resources in each position and also getting rest into those multi-format players like Joss Buttler, Jofra Archer, Ben Stokes, and also Sam Curran, Mark Wood, Chris Wokes, etc. So
on Ollie Pope, he's obviously it's quite a while since he picked that injury up already. The timeline was sort of 3 or 4 months then. It's 3 months have passed. He's clearly getting there because he's traveling to Sri Lanka, but he just wasn't close enough to be considered for
sure, selection. No, he wasn't considered for selection. Again, it felt absolutely the right place for him to be in Sri Lanka. He's clearly moving forward. He had a hit last week, hit a few balls. Ollie's obviously had a similar injury before. He came back brilliantly well and showed huge resilience, which is such an important part, isn't it, of being an international cricketer, that psychological resilience. And Ollie showed it to the max with coming back last time. He's been hit by that injury again, and he's absolutely determined to come back, even better than ever. He is a sparkling batsman with a fantastic future ahead of him, and will be sensible about when he comes back, as I know he will be too. But he'll be working and doing everything he can to be in the mix for the first test in India.
Okay, I think we're done. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, Ed. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Thank you.